I'm about to show you 4 houses in Canada that look like incredible deals, but at least one of them will quietly cost you far more than you expect. Because right now, everyone is chasing cheap property, ocean views, land space, and escape from everything. But what most people don't realize is this: some of these listings are not opportunities. They are trade-offs that only show up after you move in. And by then it's too late in this video. One of these homes looks completely move-in, ready, but carries a long-term cost. Most buyers miss. One sits on beautiful waterfront. But just getting there changes everything. One is unbelievably cheap, and there is a very specific reason it has been sitting unsold for years. And one might actually be the smartest buy here, if you look at it the right way. I went through every listing, checked the details, and focused not just on what is written, but what is conveniently left out. Because cheap property is easy to find. Understanding what it really costs to live there is where things change. I have put all the property links in the description if you want to explore them yourself. These are not polished homes. These are places where isolation, weather, and maintenance actually define your life. I will walk you through all 4 and rank them at the end, and that ranking might not be what you expect. Starting with $134,900 in Baie Verte, Newfoundland. This looks like one of the safest options in the entire list: a full-size family home, ocean views, and nothing that immediately feels broken or unfinished. But that first impression is exactly where most people get this wrong, because Baie Verte is a small coastal town where life moves slower. Services are limited, and the weather is not just a background detail, it shapes how you live every single day. So what you are really buying here is not convenience, it is quiet isolation and responsibility. The listing shows a 2,400 square foot bungalow with 5 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a large rec room, and even an in-ground pool, plus municipal water, a deck, and walking distance to the waterfront, which on paper sounds like a complete setup. And that is the part that feels reassuring, but also the part that hides the real story, because that pool in this climate is not a bonus. It is ongoing maintenance. Heating is split between electric and wood, which usually means winters are expensive, not efficient. And once you translate that into real numbers, heating alone can run several thousand a year. The pool adds more, and coastal wear never really stops. So you are not buying a $134K home. You are stepping into a long-term cost cycle. This is not for someone chasing cheap living. This is for someone who understands what coastal life actually demands. So the real question is, are you willing to trade predictable costs for space and location? Keep this one in mind because it looks stable, but it may not land where you expect. If you want the full listing, the link is in the description. Next, $139,900 on Whitehead Island, New Brunswick, and this is the one that will probably pull you in the fastest, because on paper it looks like a dream waterfront escape ocean on multiple sides, privacy land, and a house that already feels like it has character. But the moment you zoom out, the reality starts to shift, because this is not just a house. It is an island property, and access is by ferry, which means every normal part of life: groceries, supplies, emergencies. Even simple errands are tied to a schedule you do not control, and that changes everything. The listing shows a 3-bedroom home on nearly 2 acres with a boathouse and views in almost every direction. And visually, it feels like one of the strongest options here, but then you hit one line updated but not completed. And that is where the real story begins, because that usually means the easy work is done, and the difficult, expensive parts are still waiting. So when you translate that into reality, you are likely looking at tens of thousands in additional work, plus the ongoing friction of ferry access, septic systems, and well water, which all require time, attention, and money. So this is not a finished dream home. It is an ongoing project in a beautiful but demanding location. This is not for someone who needs convenience or predictability. This is for someone who wants isolation views and is willing to build slowly over time. So the real question is, are you willing to trade access and certainty for one of the most unique locations in this list? Keep this one in mind, because this might look like the best option at first glance if you want the full listing. The link is in the description. Let's pause for a second, because by now you're probably starting to notice something that isn't obvious at first glance. Every one of these properties is asking you the exact same question, just in different ways. How much inconvenience are you actually willing to live with? Because the issue isn't the house itself. It's the gap between what it looks like online and what it actually feels like to live there. Every day, ocean views feel like a win, until access starts controlling your routine. A finished home feels safe until the ongoing costs quietly build in the background. And this is where most buyers get it wrong. They focus on the price, not the lifestyle that comes with it. And the next 2 properties are where this gets even more interesting, because one of them looks like the cheapest opportunity in this entire list, and it might actually be the one that demands the most from you. Now, $119,000 in Grosse Roche, Quebec. And this is the one that looks like it should be the hidden gem, a historic home, character, land space, and that quiet rural backdrop that feels like a reset. But this is also where the gap between expectation and reality gets the widest, because this is a small scenic village not built around convenience or quick access, which means what you are really buying here is not a home. It is a lifestyle shift. The listing shows a 1930 heritage-style property with 5 bedrooms sitting on a large wooded lot with a barn and space for gardening, and visually it has everything that makes people imagine potential, but then you hit the one detail that changes everything. Electricity and plumbing are not functional, and that is not a minor fix, that is the entire foundation of livability. So when you translate this into reality, you are not stepping into a home. You are stepping into a full-scale renovation project. Electrical work alone can run into tens of thousands, plumbing adds more, and that is before you even touch structural surprises, permits, timelines, and labor, which almost always go beyond initial expectations. So this is not a 190K opportunity. It is a long-term commitment of time, effort, and capital. This is not for casual buyers or first-time investors. This is for someone who knows renovation or is intentionally chasing a restoration project. So the real question is, are you willing to rebuild a home from the inside out in exchange for character land and long-term potential? Keep this one in mind because it might be the cheapest here, but it could also be the most demanding if you want the full listing. The link is in the description. Finally, $105,000 in Bonito, Manitoba. And this is the one that doesn't try too hard to impress you at first glance. No dramatic waterfront, no historic charm, just a quiet country property with land. And that simplicity is exactly why it's easy to overlook, but also why it might matter the most. Because this is rural Manitoba, isolated, seasonal, and built around self-reliance, which means what you are really buying here is independence, not convenience. The listing shows a 3-bedroom home on 5 acres with a barn, plus updates like new windows insulation, a metal roof, and an electric furnace. So structurally, it feels more stable than the others. But then you notice one detail that changes how you read everything. It has been sitting on the market for over 1,800 days, nearly 5 years, and listings do not sit that long without a reason. So when you translate that into reality, you are dealing with holding tank sewage, which needs regular maintenance, well water, which means you manage your own supply-limited infrastructure, and real distance from services where even basic errands take planning. So yes, the ongoing costs and effort are still there, but compared to everything else, this is less about fixing problems and more about adapting to a lifestyle. This is not for someone who needs access, speed, or convenience. This is for someone who wants land quiet and a slower pace without taking on a full renovation project. So the real question is, are you willing to trade convenience for stability and space? Keep this one in mind because this might quietly be the most balanced option in this entire list. If you want the full listing, the link is in the description. All right, 4 properties. Now let's rank them based on actual value, not just how they look, but what it actually feels like to live there day to day. Starting from the bottom. Last place, Quebec Fixer. This is the one I would stay away from, unless you already know exactly what you are getting into. It looks charming, it feels like a project with potential, but in reality, it is a full rebuild, disguised as a house. And for most people, that turns from exciting to overwhelming. Very quickly, 3rd place, Whitehead Island. This one is visually the most tempting, incredible views, privacy, and a location that feels rare, but ferry access and an unfinished home create a level of friction that most buyers underestimate. It is beautiful but not practical for everyday life. 2nd place, Newfoundland house. This feels like the safest option at first glance. It is complete, it is livable, and it looks like a straightforward purchase, but the hidden costs, especially heating and ongoing maintenance, slowly change that equation over time. Number 1, Manitoba Acreage. This wins, not because it is perfect, but because it is the most balanced. It is remote. Yes, but it avoids major renovation and extreme access issues. It gives you space stability and a clearer idea of what your life will actually look like. Here's the reality. Cheap property is not a scam, but it is also not a shortcut. Every single one of these comes with trade-offs. And the part most people underestimate is not the price. It is the lifestyle that comes attached to it. So the real question is not which one looks best. It is which set of compromises you can actually live with long-term. Because if you need convenience, these won't work. If you expect comfort without effort, these won't work. And if you are thinking about something like this seriously, then you have to experience it the right way. Visit in winter, not summer. See how it actually feels when conditions are not ideal. Talk to locals. Understand what daily life really looks like and spend time there before making a decision, because some of these are real opportunities, but only for the right person and only if you fully understand what you are stepping into. So now I'm curious, which one would you actually buy? Not the cheapest, not the one that looks the best, but the one you could realistically see yourself living in day to day with all the trade-offs that come with it. Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one, and I want to see how you think about this. And if you want to explore any of these properties yourself, all the links are in the description.